What's up guys, Pete with Bodybuilding Digital here with another old school bodybuilding series. Today to talk about Serge Nubret's old school training program. Now if you haven't already checked out my previous video covering Serge Nubret's insane 800 grams of protein diet, make sure to check that one out as well. But for now, let's also talk about his seriously insane training program. A quick background on Serge Nubret. Serge had won major bodybuilding contests dating all the way back to the 1950s, such as the Mr. Guadeloupe. He later held his own at the IFBB Mr. Olympia contest, giving even Arnold Schwarzenegger himself a run for his money, placing just shy of a win in second place in 1975. Serge continued to compete all the way up to the 1980s, competing for a span of almost 30 years in bodybuilding. Serge clearly had found a nutrition and training system that worked well for him. Looking at it deeper, however, you would wonder, could the average person or even a seriously dedicated bodybuilder do what he reported to do for as long as he did back then? Let's talk about exactly what he did during his training for all those years. Serge reportedly trained 6 days a week, which was very typical, especially in the 1970s. Most of the competitors would train Monday through Saturday, taking Sunday off as a full rest day. He also trained each muscle group twice a week, which was also very typical in those days. However, his actual training split is very unique and not typical of the most back then. Serge would train his chest and quads on Monday and Thursday, his back and hamstrings and calves on Tuesday and Friday, and on Wednesday and Saturday, Serge would finish off the week with shoulders, biceps, triceps, and more calves. His idea behind splitting the body up like this was, in his words, to train a muscle to get as much blood into the muscle as possible and to keep it there as long as possible. So Serge would never superset opposing muscle groups or combine body parts that would interfere with each other, which was very typical back in those days. Serge would even completely rest after one body part was finished, mentioning that he would even lay on the ground and rest until the pump went completely away before training another muscle group. Eventually, Serge would actually leave the gym and come back for a second body part, which eventually resulted him training twice a day, 6 days per week, where he would split up something like chest in the morning and come back for quads at night. What's even more crazy about Serge's training was how many sets and reps he would do. Serge was a notoriously high volume trainer and reportedly trained with 30 plus sets, even upwards of 50 in a single workout. Serge was not an advocate of heavy training. Again, his goal was to get as great a pump as possible, so he opted for mostly sets of 12 to 20 reps, resting only 30 seconds between sets. With this fast-paced high-volume workout, Serge said himself, it was impossible to train with heavy weights. Despite the fact that Serge trained with lighter weights, he was actually still a very strong lifter, as he could be seen benching over 400 pounds on many occasions. However, he made a very strong point to state that this was not something done during his normal training. With all of his crazy volume training, Serge would also start off every morning with a minimum of 2,000 crunches every day. Yes, every day, 2,000 crunches minimum, and Serge would even go sometimes for as long as an hour straight. His philosophy was it was a form of cardio, but also worked to strengthen his abdominals. These were not full range of motion sit-ups, but crunches being done continuously for upwards of an hour at a time. This serious high volume training approach was followed up with his extreme 800 gram of protein diet that I discussed in my previous video regarding Serge. I want to hear what you guys think of his training system, and I'll leave you with a quote from Serge himself on training. Trust me, when you love something, you don't need motivation.